Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the US Beat Mapping World Championship Quarter Space Finals. Space result. I'm not going to do that. Quarterfinals results and the showcase for each and every team's entry. I'm fieryrage. I'm going to be joined by White.
Hello, everyone. I unfortunately am replacing Nafi today. She is at COE, probably having a great time. Maybe she's in the chat. Who knows? Be pretty cool.
Yeah, this unfortunately overlaps with COE quite heavily, so you know how it is.
Indeed.
Everyone is enjoying themselves. Meanwhile, we get to sit at home and do whatever. I don't really know what we're doing, actually. Anyway, I do know what we're doing. We're going over the maps. So, quarterfinals maps have been put in through the judges. We have the scorecards here. But first, let's see each and every team's entry. First, we're going to be starting with South Korea's entry. Byung-san, Basilica, Miller, and Taeyang.
Well, first we should recap what teams are even left, because there's probably some people who don't really know. So right now, this is obviously the quarterfinals. Also, you might call it the round of 8. That's what I like to call it, even though it's not really. I mean, it is. Depends on how you look at it.
I don't think anyone calls it that.
Well, I call it that, okay? You know?
I think you're the first person I have ever seen that has called it that.
Whatever. So we got Taiwan, Chile, South Korea, Canada, France, Japan, and the United Kingdom and the United States. We got ourselves the Revolutionary War rematch going on. And that'll be the last one, so look forward to it. All right. So first, we'll start with introducing South Korea. So I think Fiery already got ahead of me there, so I wouldn't say
South
everything
Korea,
again.
we already listed the names. You can see it on stream right there.
Yep. And then they are against Canada. So we got Arcasol, Lin VA, J1_, and Vacuous. All right, but so let's take a look at the pick'ems for this round.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of not too surprising, the pick'ems being this lopsided in favor of Korea overall. A lot of people, I think, have them overall winning the tournament, as a matter of fact, just because they're so stacked. So, we'll see if Canada can bring an upset, but it's very much in favor of Korea in that regard, at the very least.
It definitely is. It definitely is. So we'll take a look at the Korean entry.
Both of these teams map to the same song, Glensista. You might remember it from OWC.
It's very much so got like Rohi vibes. Is this Rohi? I can't remember the artist.
Yes, it is Rohi. This is a custom song from Rohi.
Oh, really? That's awesome. That's super cool. We got that amazing folk vibe from Rohi, and I think this map so far does a really great job of kind of like capturing that vibe to me.
I want to first and foremost recognize the absolutely crazy hit sounding on this. You're probably already seeing it through the stream. Those are not sounds from the song. Like, this hit sounding is crazy on this. There's
Indeed.
so much effort put into it.
I think this is the one that took like 1.4 gigs of space to have on one of the judges' systems.
It's ridiculous.
There's a lot of samples, and it really just adds like a whole layer to the music that isn't there in the song, but it doesn't feel out of place at all.
Overall, very polished, coherent design that you see throughout the entire map. There's these slower sections which have a pretty unique clockwise movement.
Yeah, I mean, in general, this map is just exceptionally cohesive. It has like this fantastic concept that stays. It's just expanded across the entire map. Well, each section has this sort of unique identity, and it never gets boring, right? Like,
there's enough new unique ideas introduced throughout where it becomes not like repetitive to a fault. So you're still getting unique ideas thrown in there every now and then, but they all work together fairly well to create an experience which is pretty fun to play. Also, I don't know why auto is just missing on air. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's going to be a common theme across very many of these difficulties. Not because they're bad at all. It's just auto just decides, I don't like winning. So, yeah, that was the Korean entry. Let's take a look at the Canadian entry. What do they got to go against this?
I do want to mention I'm also kind of winging it right here since I do not have the map shown on the stream that we have in the Discord, so I am kind of winging it just by memory at the moment.
That's interesting. Let me try to fix that.
You have fun fixing that. You don't really necessarily need to, since I do remember most of these maps, and I remember this one in particular uses a lot of unique slider shapes. There's a lot of design elements where it mostly comes down to the structure of sliders for the most part throughout the entire map. Fairly straightforward entry. There's one section in particular, though, that caught my eye personally when I was looking through it, and we'll see that before, I believe, the chorus is a very awesome... You'll know it when you see it.
Alright, hopefully it's better for you, Fiery.
Yes, I can actually see now.
Awesome.
God bless.
He opened his eyes.
I can now commentate what I'm seeing live as it's happening, instead of just guesstimating. Here's the section, by the way. Yeah, that kind of pops off.
That pattern is so cool. Yeah, like, I don't know, it might be the J1 influence, but like the slider shapes just on this go off, and they don't feel out of place, even though they're very like prolifically used, I guess. And I think that's like what a lot of maps that fall into this like sort of slider shape spam, if you will, it ends up feeling like spam, and like none of those patterns connect. And this map doesn't have that issue. They're used very well together, and it accentuates the song rather than being forced.
A cute little slider at the very end there, but yeah. This entry as well, much like the South Korean entry, very cohesive and fairly consistent throughout, despite the varying mapping styles at play.
And I just want to shout out one judge who commented that the sliders were yummy. I thought that was quite interesting.
Hey, we don't judge here, except when we do, because they are judging the maps. Nonetheless, those are the two entries. Be seeing which one between South Korea and Canada won. I think
all right.
Pick'em's kind of indicated where this is probably going to end up going, and unfortunately, South Korea 7-0 in favor of Canada, and the judges' scorecards. Hit sounding won a lot of the judges over. South Korea's absolutely immaculate hit sounding on the map improved the experience like tenfold for a lot of people.
For sure. I mean, I kind of look at this as like South Korea was just polished to the core. Whereas Canada went for more of that like punch and sort of flair, but didn't quite have that same degree of polish. And I think the judges, when they're comparing two like incredible maps for like a mapping contest, and they're scoring that, I think the thing that really differentiates a lot of those maps is that the degree of polish, right? And when we're talking about, okay, we're trying to find the best mappers in the world, right? The best team of mappers. Like that's a lot of what it comes down to, right?
Yeah. For the record, a lot of the judges on basically all of these matchups did say a lot of their choices were pretty close. I think one judge said it was 50-50 pretty much on one of their picks.
100%.
Like these were very evenly matched. And
yeah,
despite the score line, it doesn't really reflect that, but
absolutely.
Trust us, they had a very hard time deciding.
Yeah, that's one of the downsides of this like all or nothing scoring system is, you know, it doesn't show how close they were in every single entry, regardless of how dramatic the outcome is. We're extremely close. So, but anyway, we'll hop into the next matchup. The next matchup is Taiwan versus Chile. So first thing, we'll start with Taiwan. We have +4J, the captain, with Matsuki Ame, Flask, Imokora, 9Ami, and Alti.
Zelda Flask.
And then, Fire, you can introduce Chile.
Yeah, Chile, Sunazuka Akira, Sayodo, K. Chronozy, and Viaso. I probably mispronounced the last one. I am very sorry about that.
Well, that's how I'd pronounce it. Perks of being American, right?
American and wrong.
You know, we don't have to talk about that part. All right, well, let's take a look at the pick'ems for this round. We got the quarterfinal predictions. Yeah, it's definitely a little bit closer, but still quite Taiwan dominated. And that might be because of the last round. Taiwan really created a really fantastic entry last round. And so did Chile, of course. But that might be what people are kind of basing that off of a little bit. But we'll go ahead and start with Taiwan. Let's see what that 80% gets us.
I love the song choice on this one in particular. This is the math rock song. This is such a banger. I love this.
I definitely like the Rohi one more, but I'm also Rohi biased because it's, you know, Vocaloid. It's Vocaloid adjacent at least. But we got lots of geometry, lots of... This is like, I would say, a very circle-heavy map. As you can see, really showing that off.
Dude, this part is so good. I love this drum breakdown. It reminds me a lot of some of the love maps from Marmalade Butcher, actually. Like, just that flow overall. That part is so good. I love it.
And it does a really good job of, like, taking sort of that similar idea and adding in the sliders, sort of breaking it down as the song changes, without, you know... I think this map does just a fantastic job of not feeling like it's 5 different mappers. It instead feels like it's one mapper, like one team, right? And that's a really important thing when you're talking in these collaborative team-based contests.
You might have noticed as well, there's a lot more emphasis on circles throughout the entirety of this. There's not as many sliders as you might expect compared to some of the other entries, which makes this section stand out a lot more. This is where the sliders actually start coming into play, and it just
yeah, these
comes out of
patterns
nowhere
are
and hits you.
These slider patterns are just so incredible, so eye-catching, and the execution of it is just flawless.
It's so good.
And, you know, I think that this matchup does a really interesting job of showing how you can map songs 2 different ways. And we'll see that in the Chilean map, that has a very different approach to mapping this. And both are perfectly valid and very interesting. And so we'll kind of see what the judges appreciated about each approach and how that comes out. But obviously we have to then show the Chilean map. So we'll hop right into that.
Chile took a lot more of a varied approach to this song in comparison to Taiwan, which was, I'd say, fairly vanilla, what you'd kind of expect to see from math rock maps for the most part. This is definitely a lot more of a unique approach on it. But you can still
much
see a
more
lot
slider heavy, for sure.
It's a lot more slider heavy, but you can see a lot of unique elements. The drum breakdown in this section in particular, I actually think I vibe with it a bit more just because I just think it's fun.
Well, if you want to see a breakdown, this part right here, the judges really were captured by this one. The insane contrast is really outstanding.
It's actually such a vibe for that part, I'm not going to lie. Oh yeah, also worth noting, the hit sounds on this are also custom made, so a lot of these sounds that you're hearing are from the hit sounds, which do help accentuate the song in some certain areas. You can see the guitar hit sounds right there.
Yeah, the hit sounds in this one are really exceptional. And the judges really care about that when it comes down to these super close matchups when you're comparing two really exceptional maps. So like those extra little things like the hit sounds and the attention to detail paid to that kind of thing really can make or break that decision for them.
A bit more of another chaotic slider section, which goes more in line with what you saw in the beginning.
Just gotta love that contrast. Very bold patterning combined with like for the bold parts in the song, and then you have the calmer things for the calmer things in the song. It really contrasts very nicely together.
Expanding sliders at the end there, also very neat.
Oh, I love the way it stuck that last circle underneath it. That's pretty nice contrast. Plays great.
Yeah, that's the Chilean entry.
All right. So moving on into the scores. Remember we had the 80 to 20% for the pick'ems. Let's take a look at how the judges scored this one. And a little bit closer than the previous round, but Taiwan does take the victory 6-1. And I really
judges...
think... I mean, this was just another really... Yeah, no worries. It was a really close matchup, of course, right? The Chilean map really went for the spectacle, I think. And, you know, the one issue with that is that sometimes that doesn't quite land with the judges when you compare it to a more restrained but very polished map that Taiwan put out. And I think that was kind of what it came down to. Some of the choices in Chilean maps the judges didn't quite vibe with, whereas all of the judges really liked the Taiwan map. And so you end up with kind of this disparity as a result.
Yeah, a lot of the judges in particular thought that the Taiwanese entry was just in general a bit more polished and coherent despite being a lot more vanilla. They thought it worked with the song a bit nicer. Even though it is what you might expect from a math rock song. It is what you would expect from a math rock song for a reason.
Well, who even knows what a math rock song is? What is mapping? All right. So we'll move into the third matchup. We're halfway done. Much faster than the previous live stream, right?
Well, I mean, we're not dealing with technical difficulties, so we have that going for us at the very least.
True. I actually didn't watch the previous one. Well, at least in completion. But anyway, we'll move into... we got France versus Japan. So France is led by Blackie Design. We have TimeVid, Pisapo, Eumerios, Nozuchi, and Levi on this team.
On the Japanese side, 074, Kokomax, Lavila, Ring, Dectopia, and Ruruchi. Bit of a stacked lineup on their own regard. Ruruchi, obviously the standout name there, I think. A lot of people...
I don't know what like Ruruchi's doing here and like who got him out of retirement, but it's pretty insane. So we'll see what the legendary mapper can do for Japan. So we'll take a look at the pick'ems here.
Just for a side note as well, the remainder of these maps have chosen the, I believe, what is it called? Artcore song. I do not know my genres apparently, but yeah, pick'ems. almost dead even for this matchup. Stark contrast to the first 2 matchups that we saw.
Super, super close for sure. So it's really just a toss-up, right? Put it in a random number generator and see what we get. That's what it comes down to.
I wouldn't necessarily say random number generator. This is just basically who the judges thought executed just that slight bit better, and what we're going to be seeing
For sure.
right now.
For sure. It's always a skill-based entry, right? So we'll take a look at the France entry first. Let's see what they got. Starting off with this big tree thing.
This is actually very interesting because this introduces a fairly visited concept throughout this entire map. Saw some of those cog shapes on that slider, I guess you could say. Cog or gear shapes. That is visited throughout the entire map. Be wary of that, which I think is pretty neat.
Yeah, definitely. It's got this very unique visual motif that it just captures and takes and expands throughout the map with these cogs and just the unique slider shapes, while also being very playable. It's super fun to play this. So, which is not sometimes that's like difficult to do together, is create like a visual map while also create a very engaging to play one. And this one delivers on both those respects.
This is definitely, I think, one of my favorite entries, at least, from the 8 remaining. That expanding stream also goes hard, even though it doesn't play necessarily the greatest, but that is such a hard pattern. I like that a lot. You have some slider tech section, which is kind of what you'd expect for something like this. It's part of the song, at the very least. And we apologize for the offset. Laser, unfortunately, lasered. So
I think that's a dancer issue, perhaps.
I'd like to blame Laser more than anything else, to be honest. I'm a Laser hater.
You're a Laser hater? Well, that's a discussion we'll have to have another day. For now, we're just enjoying this France entry, right? Oh, wow.
Very solid entry.
Yeah, definitely. And it ends off with a bang. It doesn't let up at all. So we'll see what Japan has to answer.
Japan went for a bit of a messier approach with their structure, which does help to accentuate some of the parts of the song a lot better than I think France's entry does.
Yeah, I mean, this one is just a little bit messier visually, but I think that they use that intentionally in order to sort of accentuate the things in the song. And then we'll see that sort of messy approach really develop and culminate into something really, I think, spectacular as the map progresses.
Also jump scare air horn sound. Unfortunately, that's the only funny hit sound in this one.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of memey hit sounds, which is disappointing. You guys got to do better next time.
Okay, I don't know about that.
That's just a shout out to all of the mappers, not just Japan, of course. And the horizontal to vertical flow shifts are really pretty interesting as well.
Second chorus has a very neat gimmick, in my opinion. Tries to avoid the center of the playfield as much as possible, which I think...
Hey, no spoils.
It does a unique job of accentuating the flow in this part, which I think is pretty cool.
The spinning around the center is just such a neat trick. Very playfield oriented. just a ton of variety in this map. While it never feels random, even though there's just so much variety in the ideas.
This is a very solid entries from both of these teams, as we kind of expected going into it with the pick'ems. And unsurprisingly, the results on this are the closest, actually, that we've seen. A lot of judges had a very, very hard time deciding between these two entries. France does take it, though, 5-2.
Absolutely. It just really shows the mastery of both of these teams in the editor. And I'm really excited to see what France pulls out in the next round, the semifinals. Really just a fantastic showing from both teams, though.
Yeah, one of these teams, unfortunately, does have to get eliminated. We would love to have both of these teams in the semifinals, but that's not how the brackets work, unfortunately. So
yep, it's an all or nothing, right? So you gotta pick one, and in all the judges, again, every single round, they were like, oh man, it sucks to get rid of one of these teams, but, we have to have an outcome, or the contest does not go on. So, we'll move on into our last round, which is the United Kingdom versus the United States. So starting off with the UK.
Yeah, this is definitely a matchup I think a lot of people are looking forward to. Sorry for interrupting. You can go ahead.
No, you're absolutely right. This is definitely like two stacked teams with lots of history in all the mappers. So starting off with 7 VII. I don't actually know if that's how you're supposed to say that name, but whatever. We have Devious Panda, Yusomi, Ishtiak, Pseudonymous, and The Cube.
Callie, my favorite name change of all time.
Well, lots of interesting, like Obama Cube and other things. So
the lore.
On
the side of the United States, I'm still not going to bother trying to pronounce that first name. That just looks like a randomly generated hash code to me. 6px, follow Pandai's Fear and Weeweet, or Weeawweet. I have no idea which one you prefer being pronounced as, but
yeah, I think we just need to start moderating these names for you're an NAT, or you were an NAT. Go back to being an NAT. Start moderating these unpronounceable names. Do your job.
I don't think that's how that works.
Well, make it like that. They're making our lives hard.
You just say 6px. It's fine. It's not that bad.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, the pick'ems, UK favored on this one. Pretty, I wouldn't say heavily, obviously, but it is a fairly solid advantage for the UK side going into it. About 70-30.
Absolutely. I think a lot of that is the names of the UK have a ton of notoriety behind them. And I think the American team is a little bit more newcomer when you look at the years that they've been mapping. Not to say that they're novices at all. Every team here is, professionals. But that's, I think, a big reason that that swing is there and that the pick'ems. Of course, these are not the actual results. Nobody's seen the maps when they have created these pick'ems. But we're going to go ahead and unveil the UK entry now.
I just got informed that this might be an older version of the UK map. We might have had some trolling behind the scenes, unfortunately. But hopefully there shouldn't be that many differences.
We will pretend. Now, the judges did score the most accurate map. Yeah.
Yeah, the judges actually scored the map that was submitted. This one we just kind of had a bit of a troll moment.
We got lots of sliders, lots of kick sliders. Very, these very jump-oriented patterns here. The judges really quite liked.
It's a lot more chaotic, and you can pretty much just see that from this section alone. It takes a much more artistic approach to mapping. I don't really think this is necessarily something that you'd want, that most people would probably be playing. This is definitely much more of just expressing the song through an art form, which is very good. It does a very good job at that. representing all the different sections fairly well here.
Definitely. They just found this map like extremely interesting in its use of chaotic and sort of somewhat irregular sort of choices. So they found that to be an interesting application here, and very technically impressive. Like just the foundation, like the fundamentals of mapping are really put on display here to a very high degree.
Becomes a bit more tame in the latter half of the map. This isn't as chaotic as the beginning. It is a bit more mechanically intensive, but
you know, not every part can pop off, because then there's no contrast for the parts that need to pop off. So yeah, overall, really a fantastic map. The visuals and the overall technical expertise were really put on display from this team, which is, of course, what you'd expect from the names behind it. But we'll see what the United States has to offer. You have any closing comments on this map, Fiery?
Not really. Let's see what the United States has to counter this crazy entry from the United Kingdom. Much more standardized approach from this one, but the United States do take advantage of a lot of different concepts throughout this map, and I think it works pretty well for them.
Well, I think that the main thing that you'll find is this map is just cohesive to a T, right? Like, we start off with these really incredible concepts with rotation and symmetry that get carried throughout the map and expanded before they get boring, and developed as the song adapts. A super awesome usage of those web sliders.
I like this part, is so good. Otto is having a horrible time. They're just not having a fun time playing these.
I could tell you that I wouldn't do much better than Otto on this. So we're pulling back in the symmetry from the first, like the introduction. And it's just really nicely ties everything together here. One judge said that this map won their heart. So.
Well, you're spoiling results. Now we know the United States has 1 point.
Oh no, well, that doesn't actually mean anything. It could have won their heart, but maybe they didn't vote it. But you never know.
That's what you think.
You're right.
Yeah, these are two incredibly solid entries. There's not really much else to be said about them. This is easily the closest matchup, I think, outside of the earlier Japan versus France. This is, I'd say like either the closest, depending on what you think about the France versus Japan entries, or the second closest. Like, these are crazy. Also, the Yippee hit sound, worth noting. I forgot to point that out.
I missed it, actually. I feel like it vaguely rings a bell that I heard it, but it didn't quite register.
The Zoodinator influence is very prominent.
Incredible. Yeah, just everything in this map just felt so deliberate. Like, you can really tell that they planned it from the very start. Like, every aspect of this, everything, the flow, the patterns, how it moves around the playfield and utilizes it to its advantage. All of it was just so incredibly deliberate. And it really makes the map recognizable at a glance. But we'll take a look at what the judges valued. So here's the scores.
I just want to preface this by saying this is the one, like, a lot of judges actually were going either way on this. So this scoreline is not reflective of how the judges felt at all. Like, it's going to surprise a lot of people, I think, seeing just 0 to 7 because it's eye-catching, but this was way closer than this scoreline suggests. It's just, unfortunately, the judges, I think, all slightly favored the United States entry when compared to the UK entry, and that's what the scoreline reflects there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at the end, I think it was just sort of the tech flair versus the structure of the United States map. And the UK just showed off higher raw difficulty spikes, and actually some of the judges found that the UK map had the higher technical skill, but the US really just had really identifiable core ideas that strung together into a really, really tight narrative with the symmetry, the motifs, and the really standout wub chorus. So most of the judges, well, obviously all of them, leaned to the United States for that extra cohesion. But they all, like Fiery said, admitted it felt pretty 50-50. So this pairing really does deliver. So
yeah, like it like the scoreline just does not do how close these maps were on paper justice.
Absolutely. Well, but of course, as we know, there has to be one winner, and here we are.
Yeah, that does it for the quarterfinals. We'll be seeing the Taiwanese, South Koreans, French, and the Americans progress into the semifinals weekend, where they'll be pit up against each other again. We'll see how spicy their entries will be for that week.
Absolutely. The story does not end for the winners. Let's recap. We had Korea going to the next round, Taiwan going to the next round. I believe that Korea and Taiwan are going up against each other next time.
That's going to be such a messed up matchup.
That will be super interesting. And then the next matchup, I think, is what? France versus United States? Is that right?
Yes, that would probably be the other matchup.
Yeah, pretty sure that's right. I failed to bring up the bracket, so I'm going by memory there. But yeah, I'm super interested to see what happens next. And it looks like Mafu just released in the Discord the judging details and the OSZs for all of the maps. So if you guys want to put this into your own editor and play around and study them and incorporate the ideas into your own mapping, go knock yourselves out. Any closing comments, fieryrage?
I think that does it for us for the most part. We'll be seeing you guys in the semifinals weekend. Hopefully, we'll get some spicy entries that we can look at.
Sounds good. I'll see everyone later.